Check. All right. We'll go in 3, 2, 1. And we welcome you into the Dog Bowl in Berea. Day number 7. Day 7, right?
Day 7.
7?
7.
Yeah. I don't even know what day it is. That's how good this has been. It's one of those things. You just keep grinding. And it's week 2 of Browns training camp here in Berea. I'm Jason Gibbs. He's Andrew Gribble. Almost forgot. He's Nick Shook. I almost pointed and said that. That's really how this is going today. And we are recapping a busy Thursday here in Berea. Obviously, a lot of news coming down over the last 3 days. And just wanted to get your guys' quick takes on the Otto Graham statue, Clay Matthews going into the Ring of Honor, and today, the announcement of the retirement of Phil Dawson that will take place formally tomorrow when he signs his one-day contract with the Browns.
It's good in all regard. I think it long awaited for the first two. I think that once the Jim Brown statue went up a couple of years ago, everyone was like, okay, who's next? And I think that there was a few candidates out there. I saw some people speculating maybe it's going to be Paul Brown, but I think Otto Graham makes a lot of sense with it being the NFL 100 year. He has a very good shot of making the NFL's all 100 team, 10 years, 10 appearances in championship games. You really think of Cleveland Browns football, you think of Otto Graham. That's great. Clay Matthews the next day, I think it's if there was a player you wanted to break tradition with and put in the Ring of Honor that has not made the Hall of Fame, he is the perfect candidate. Longtime Brown, played here forever, and then continued playing after he left here. Has a legitimate case for the Hall of Fame. A lot of people believe he should be already in the Hall of Fame. And I think that this kind of maybe we'll get some momentum going in during voting season. He's never had problems getting the votes at this part of the season. It's when it gets down to about November and December is where we're trying to push him over the edge. And then today's news of Phil Dawson, I think everyone on Twitter is setting a record for making the same joke about how they need him in the kicking competition today. But clearly he's found the right time to hang it up, and 20 seasons, most of them in Cleveland. So it's only fitting. I mean, it was one of those things you hoped for. Once he left here, you'd hope that this day when he decided to retire, that this would come, that he would do it as a Brown, because that's the only way you can really remember him.
I think we spanned multiple generations with these announcements this week. You know, Otto Graham and really the inception of the Cleveland Browns in the glory days, what was then known as the greatest show in football, the Paul Brown Browns of those days. And then, you move to the glory days of the 80s with Clay Matthews, and who was, I think an installation. You know, he was there year after year in the linebacking core of these defenses, some of which were some pretty talented defenses, and does have a legitimate case for the Hall of Fame, as Andrew said. And then you kind of get the most current generation, or the ones who grew up through some of the struggles of this franchise, with Phil Dawson, who for many years was this team's only Pro Bowler and was this team's best player, and he was one of the best kickers of his era. And it's great to see him finally come back and retire in the brown and orange.
Is it safe to say since 99, maybe the 3 best Browns prior to last season were Joe Thomas, Phil Dawson, and Josh Cribbs?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
2 of them were special teams.
Yeah, I mean, there was it was if you want to make the argument like best careers, clearly those are the 3 that have had the best careers as Cleveland Browns.
Exactly.
I think we can debate who had the best season here or there, who was the most talented, who came through Berea, but those 3 easily the 3 best careers that have happened since 1999. All 3 of those guys.
I always kind of wonder what might have been LaCharles Bentley's career had he not suffered that
100%
miserably bad knee injury that ended his career, because I think he could have been in that group. But yeah, I would agree with that. Those are the best 3, and Phil's one of them, and it's an exciting time for him to be able to come back and retire.
Well, a lot of great things happening out here in Berea this week, and of course training camp continuing, and the guys getting after it today, really hitting it hard. Spirited practice right from the beginning. There was no lull in the early going today, and I thought a pretty good day for the offense when all things were said and done. But there were a couple defensive players that were sitting out today as well.
Yeah, I thought the offense looked good even in just like one-on-ones today. It just felt like they were on the same page. A lot of receivers making plays. Jarvis's catch today, making the rounds on every form of social media. I mean, they look great, and I thought we saw a lot of Odell today, and I was happy to see. I don't want to see a ton of fades thrown his way, but when it works,
I believe you asked for it yesterday.
Fantastic. I asked
You
for
both did.
big catches, but it's like the fades is like not the thing he's best at, but he sure looked good doing it today.
Sure.
Like, and clearly those two were used a lot with the first team offense today, and going up against a defense that's a little banged up right now, it makes sense why the offense, and again, this goes back to, it always feels like a better practice when the offense is doing things. So today felt pretty good.
It kind of points to the way this game has tilted and the way the rules have skewed offense friendly. It always feels better when the offense is putting up points, not when a defense is stopping an offense, especially when it's a team that you're supporting. But looking at Odell and Jarvis and Baker all on the field at the same time, and there was that that fade you were talking about that he scored a touchdown on, where Baker basically stopped, looked over to the two of them lined up, Odell in the slot, Jarvis out wide, and made a little hand motion that probably indicated a hot route or a couple of hot routes, and they executed flawlessly. Odell wins it off the line, runs the fade to the back pylon. Jarvis runs a slant underneath, a little bit of a natural rub, not as much as you would expect, and the ball perfectly placed by Baker. It looked like they'd done that 150 times on whatever field they practiced on in Los Angeles over the summer. I mean, it was executed to perfection, and it just gets you excited because you think, man, if they could do this kind of thing on game day, just imagine what the possibilities are. And that's just a tiny little sneak preview of what might be in our future.
It really is amazing when 13 goes out onto the football field.
Yeah.
And how special he is and the things he does, even after practice. Watching him on the jugs machine, if you put him out at the 50-yard line and just let him do the jugs machine in front of the fan base, it would be insanity at its finest.
It would sell out.
The things he does and just the level of play that he brings to the table when he walks onto the football field is just something that Nathan Zagur and I were talking about it today. I haven't seen that in such a long time here, even in 2007, with guys like Braylon and, one-year wonders, basically. No one came close to having the talent that this guy has when he walks onto the football field.
It's a mix of talent, flair, panache, like just total ease in his situation. And even when he's not and that's why it's like I'm encouraged even more that he's not just tearing up this training camp, because I saw a lot of plays Denzel Ward's guarding him great. I mean, that he's just does it with such flair that you would imagine he could get open on every play. But I think Denzel's doing a good job on him. But when he does get open, it just looks so easy. He just makes everything around him look so easy.
There was a play today where Baker had to avoid the rush and stepped up and scrambled to his left and ripped one. And I was going to say, wow, what a throw. But then you realize it was slightly behind, and it still was a great throw. And Odell just jumped up and plucked it out of the air like it was nothing. And that's a difficult catch for 98 to 99% of receivers on this planet. And he just jumped up and grabbed it like it was nothing. And I went from going, wow, what a throw, to, wow, he's just unbelievable. Watching him make catches that are not routine, look routine, it's never any less impressive.
You mentioned on the defensive end, Gribbs, the injury bug a little bit. Sheldon Richardson sat out today with an abdomen issue. Chad Thomas, a little bit of the flu, one would surmise. Olivier Vernon with a hamstring.
Jannard Avery's still out.
Yeah, Jannard Avery's still out. Should we be getting concerned with some of these injuries? Not to mention the offensive guys. Duke and Kareem still not practicing. Seth DeValve and now Demetrius Harrison concussion. You're down to 2 tight ends on this football team. Should we be getting concerned, guys, with the fact that we're starting to see all these and we're 1 week out from preseason game number 1?
I'm not. Maybe I'm concerned about winning the game, but I'm not concerned about that at all. It doesn't matter if you win that preseason game, but
Amen.
I think it's a good mix that what Freddie has, though. I think because a lot of these injuries I think are considered minor. It seems like it's like what you have on the one end of the spectrum with J.C. Tretter hurts his ankle in practice, gets rolled up on. He expects him to grind through it. He wants a physical camp. But at the same time, I think Freddie also has a good understanding of being precautious when necessary with guys. And if guys have something that they can make worse, those guys are on the sidelines. Because you look at a lot of these injuries, even an abdomen, that's something you can make worse by going out there. All these hamstrings, guys like that. He's quick to be cautious with some of these guys that you're going to need in a month or so.
That, and I think what's more important is the month or so, or the 2 months from now, not this preseason game, not next week's preseason, the preseason game weeks 2, 3, and 4. And that might not be, the best thing that a marketing department would want to hear, but I'm just telling you right now that I would much rather have these guys healthy and prepared to play in the regular season than these preseason games. There's no reason to rush these guys in the field. If you got to be careful with these injuries that they're having and that they're sustaining, absolutely take as much time as you need. And this is also the product of a physical camp. If you're gonna bang and crack pads and everything else and just go back and forth with these physical practices, you're gonna have these issues. But ultimately, if the goal is to make a tougher team, a team that can deal with adversity and persevere through things like that, then that's what you're gonna achieve. And this is just some collateral damage that you'll be able to overcome.
Other big takeaways from the day, Nick. Let's start with you.
Well, it was a great day for the offense, but you could definitely notice when guys like Sheldon and Olivier are not out there. The defense did not get as much of a pass rush as we've seen in days prior, and the offense benefited from that. I think it was kind of a little bit of a cause and effect, but also the second straight day in which the offense has really started to put it together. And they're moving the ball, not necessarily on every possession, but they're scoring. They're succeeding when they're inside the red zone. They're doing everything you really want to see. And, especially when you have your top playmakers on the field, it's great to see them in sync. So it was a very encouraging day, I think, from that standpoint.
I'll say it's been a good couple of days for Antonio Callaway.
Yeah.
He's had a few. He's still on the second team, and then he's continuing.
He's stacking
He's
days.
he's getting open like he should be against the second team, and I think he's making plays. I think he's responded to maybe a slow start, and I think it was indicated today from Todd Monken he showed up a little maybe out of shape coming into training camp, but I think he's working himself back in. It's like the old school football when all those guys used to come in out of shape and after a summer of smoking cigarettes or anything like that,
drinking coffee every day.
It's like that. Maybe he's a little old school in that regard, but he looks fine to me now, and I think he's finally, like, when he was on the second team and not doing stuff, that's when I was worried, but then now that he's on the second team still and going up against guys that can't cover him, he's doing a great job.
Yeah, Antonio Callaway definitely didn't spend his offseason selling insurance or, drinking, some light beers or whatever, doing ads for Chesterfields. But, yeah, I think the last thing that really stood out to me was Ishmael Hyman had a great finish to this practice. And it might have not seemed like that much, but in the final period and a half, we had him catch 2 passes that racked up nearly 50 yards in one possession. He carried the offense in that possession, the second-team offense, and then scored on a hard slant, later in the period for a touchdown. And to punctuate it, spiked the football in the end zone, in celebration. It's basically how they ended practice. It was a great finish for him, and this is a guy who's very much in the conversation for one of those last receiver spots. So, you're always encouraged to see somebody like that succeed, especially when they don't get as many reps because the top receivers are on the field. So, good finish for him.
Another wide receiver, not to make this all about wide receivers, but a guy that I know has caught your eye, Derek Willis, continues to impress.
Yeah, he's solid. I think that's what Freddie wants. He wants the consistency. He doesn't look like a guy. He looks like someone who played a full first season, and I think that's key. And he really didn't. He only played a few games.
Yeah,
and he looks much more seasoned, like he belongs out there. Has the body for it clearly, he just has to keep doing this. Remember the one play he made last preseason that basically got him on this team when he chased down a guy on an interception, made a tackle. He's just got to keep doing hustle plays like that because this is a guy where his focus still, as many plays as he's making as a wide receiver, it's got to be what he's doing on special teams.
All right, that's a wrap on day number 7 out here in Berea for Browns training camp. If you want to get the rest of what happened today, including a one-on-one interview my guy Shook did with special teams coach Mike Prefer, make sure you check that out wherever you get your podcast or log on to clevelandbrowns.com. For Andrew Gribble, for Nick Shook, I'm Jason Gibbs. This has been the best podcast available.